Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله الذي نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله أرسله الله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا فصلى الله عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. يقول الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا منهن. صدق الله العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم ثبتنا عند الموت بلا إله إلا الله واللهم اجعلنا من الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. آمين يا رب العالمين. There's a story that one of my teachers once shared with me about a brother or a man who came to his masjid once, and this was in Mansfield, so it's in the middle of nowhere, essentially about an hour from here. And it's a small masjid, it's a small musalla, and especially during Asr time, in the middle of the day, maybe 4 or 5 people show up, not even one row is complete. And so he says that one day, this man walks in at Asr time, full of tattoos. His entire body is just covered in tattoos. And I want you to imagine this situation when there are a few people in the masjid and a man who looks like this walks in. The first reaction for most people will be reaching to their phone just in case this man does something or something happens or we need to call somebody for help, right? Just based on the appearance of this person. So the sheikh sees him, and after Asr, he approaches him and he says, "Who are you? And what are you doing here? What brings you to the community?" And so he starts telling him his life story. And he shares with him and he says that I used to live in California and I used to be involved in a lot of drug and crime activity, just like my father was, just like my brothers were, just like my uncles were. And from a very, very young age, I was involved in this atmosphere and in this environment. And by the time I was 23, I had already gotten 2 strikes. Now in California, back in the day, what that meant is that you committed some sort of crime and they charged you with a strike. And in California, if you get 3 strikes, then you're basically done. You're put in jail for a very, very long time. And so he's at the age of 23 and he gets his 3rd strike. And now I want you to imagine a 23-year-old, for those of you who are at that age, your entire life is ahead of you. Now this person, his life is about to end at the age of 23. He is going to go to prison, he thinks, and his family's crying, his family's so disappointed. And so he's sitting in the county jail waiting for the next day for the judge to make a verdict about how much time he's going to spend in jail, how many years will he be there for. And so he's sitting in his cell and he just starts crying and sobbing because he realizes that at this young age, he has so many years ahead of him left, yet he wasted them, and he's not going to be able to do what he wants with his life. He's going to be stuck in jail. So he's sitting there crying, he makes sujood, and he prays to Allah the entire night. And he promises to Allah, and he makes dua to Allah that if you give me another chance, O Allah, then I will take advantage of it. And I will fulfill the responsibilities that a Muslim is supposed to do. I will become more religious. I will become closer to the deen. I will start praying. I will leave the bad habits that I've had for so many years. And the morning comes, he goes in front of the judge, expecting the worst. All of his family members are there. His mother is there. His father, his uncles are there. His brothers and sisters are there. And the judge asks him wisely, he says, if I give you another chance, what will you do with it? And the judge is smart because he knows that even if he gives a good answer and he lets him go, from his track record in a few weeks, where he's going to end up anyway? He's going to end up back in front of the judge. So he asks the judge, or the judge asks him, what are you going to do if I let you go, if I give you one more chance? And he says, Judge, I thought about this last night and I cried to my God and I told him that I will change my life and I will turn it around. And my mother wanted someone from the family to memorize the entire Quran. She wanted one of her children to become a hafiz, and I will fulfill that wish and that desire of my mother if I am let out, and if I get another chance. So the judge liked his answer, and he said, okay, you're free to go. And now in this state of shock, him and his family, they don't understand or believe how this has happened. He goes to one of his uncles and he says, do you have any cash that I can borrow? And his uncle gives him $40. And he goes to the nearest Islamic center or bookstore, and he grabs the Quran, and he grabs any other resources he can, and he starts committing himself to the religion. And in 8 months he becomes a hafiz. And he fulfills the promise and the wish of his mother. And if you ask anybody in that community in which he lives currently, he got married after that, he got his life straightened out, got a good job, 2 children, wife, everything that a normal good life is, should be a part of it. And if you ask anybody, his family, his children are some of the most well-behaved. And you would never think not only about him being a hafiz and his situation, but about his past just by looking at him. He's full of tattoos. He doesn't look like the typical Muslim. Yet, he is. And he's a hafiz. And he might be a better Muslim than many of you and I are. But the appearance doesn't show that. And so the first topic and the first point I'd like to make today in this khutbah is that we should not judge others by the appearance and by what we see on the outwardly. It doesn't matter what someone is wearing, the type of clothes. It doesn't matter the type of gadget someone has. It doesn't matter the type of car that they drive or the type of house that they have or what they have on their body or the way they look. Or even if they wear hijab or not hijab, or even if they are wearing shorts in the masjid or not shorts in the masjid. It doesn't matter because you don't know what type of person that really is, and you don't know what their story is, and you don't know what they're going through. So don't judge by appearance. And this doesn't just apply to religious matters and in the religious context. This applies to everything across life. It doesn't matter that a person is not wealthy and is not maybe at the same level that you are in terms of your wealth. It doesn't matter that a person, if you're in the gym and you can lift 200 pounds and the guy can barely lift 10, and you think, I'm so strong, look how much I work out, look at me, I'm healthy, and that other person is not healthy. And I'd like to share a hadith with you on this note that is very powerful, and it should instill within us not to judge others by what we see on the outwardly. The Prophet ﷺ, paraphrasingly in this hadith, he said that I swear by Allah, there is no God but He, that one may perform the deeds of the people of paradise till there is not but an arm's length between him and paradise. And similarly, on the reverse, a person may do the deeds of a person of hellfire until there is not but an arm's length between him and the hellfire. But because of Allah's decree and what Allah had planned for that person, the situations may shift. That person who was so close to Jannah may start heading in the wrong direction and may head into the hellfire, God forbid. And that person who was so close to the hellfire, because of Allah's decree, may go the other way, may change his life and turn it around and end up in Jannah. And you and I don't know. And perhaps because we start looking at other people, because we start judging other people, and we start focusing on other people's actions and their appearance, then we forget about ourselves, and Allah takes us down the wrong path. And may Allah protect us from that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us only to focus on ourselves and not judge others by what we see on the outwardly. And this doesn't just apply to appearance. This doesn't just apply to what we see in front of us, but it also applies to actions, what other people do. And we are told in our tradition in Islam to make 70 excuses for our brothers and sisters. Hamdun al-Qassar, one of the great early Muslims, he said that if a friend amongst you makes a mistake, make 70 excuses for them. And if your hearts are unable to do this, then know that the shortcoming is in your own selves. When you see someone doing something that's even clearly wrong, it's a mistake, it's a sin, what should you and I do? We make an excuse, at least one, if not 70 excuses for that person. And if you and I are not able to come up with an excuse, then who's at fault? I am, and you are. That you are so full of yourself, that I am so full of myself that I'm not even able to come up with one excuse. I'm not even able to give the least benefit of the doubt for that person. The fault is within ourselves if we're not able to make excuses for our brothers and sisters. In the words of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, he said that if you see something that you don't like in a brother or sister, try to find between 1 and 70 excuses for him. And if you can't find an excuse, say that there may be an excuse, but I just don't know it. Again, putting it on yourself. There may be some excuse, there may be some reason that they're doing this, even though the action I see is clearly wrong. He or she should not be doing that. That's clearly haram, that's clearly wrong. But there must be some reason that they may be doing this. I just can't think of it. So putting it on yourself, the shortcoming is on yourself that you can't think of an excuse and that there may be an excuse. So that's the first point of this khutbah, is do not judge others by the outwardly, whether that's by their appearance or whether that's by their actions. Point number 2, and that is that you don't see the progress. Have you ever heard of the quote, behind every success is a lot of hard work and sacrifice? When you see, for example, a millionaire, someone who's extremely successful at business, all you see is the product in front of you. All you see is the person, he's a millionaire and he drives certain cars and he has certain material things. But what you don't see is the sleepless nights. You don't see the 16-hour days that person put into his business to achieve that result. Similarly, when it comes to failure, behind every seeming failure, behind every seeming sin or wrong action that you see in other people is potentially progress. For example, if someone currently is overweight, they're 300 pounds. You think that they're overweight and look how unhealthy they are and they can't control themselves from eating and this and that. But you don't know that 6 months ago they were 350 pounds, but they're headed in the right direction. You see someone who has 3 haram businesses and liquor stores, and you judge that person for that. And you don't realize that person a year ago had 10 of them. But now he's getting rid of them and he's on the way to getting rid of those final 3 as well. You don't realize the progress that people have made. That person prays only 2 times a day. 3 weeks ago he prayed no times a day, he didn't pray at all. But he's making his way, he's making the progress to achieving that goal of praying 5 times a day. You don't see that though. You just see the person in front of you. You don't see the progress that they've made. So don't judge other people because you don't see the progress that they've made. And a story relating to this point is that of the man who killed 100 people. And most of you probably know this story. I'm just going to go through it quickly due to time. And it was a person who killed 99 people. He went up to a person who lacked knowledge and he said, "Will Allah forgive me?" He said, "No, of course not." Then he killed that person too. So he killed 100 people. And now he goes up to a person who actually had knowledge and he says, "Will Allah forgive me?" And the person says, "Who is standing in between you and Allah in terms of the repentance and forgiveness?" And so he asks for forgiveness, but the person tells him that you should get a fresh start. You should head over to the nearby town so that you can make a fresh start for your life. So he starts on his way and he dies on the way there. He passes away. And so the angels of punishment and the angels of mercy come, and what happens? They say that the place that which this person is closest to, whether it's the city he's coming from, the bad city, or the good city where he's going to make a fresh start, whichever one he's closer to will take the angels of mercy will take him if he's closer to the good, and the angels of punishment will take him if he's closer to the bad. And the earth moved. Allah caused the earth to move in such a way where he was barely closer to the good city, and the angels of mercy took his soul. And why? Imagine if a person came up right now in this room and said, "I've killed 100 people. What would you and I think of that person?" And inshallah, none of us are even close to that point where we've killed even one person. But the thing is that person, even that person who had committed so much sin in his life, Allah accepted that person. Why? Because he was headed in the right direction. Because he was making progress. Because he repented for his sin. And you and I don't know who's making progress. Who repents every single day after committing the same sin. After being in the same situation. You and I don't know. So let's not judge people because we don't see the progress that they're making and that they have made. Point number 3. And this is a simple point, but it's very important, and that is that they may be better than you. Simple. I recited the ayah at the beginning of the khutbah from Surah Al-Hujurat, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا يَسْخَرْ قَوْمٌ مِّنْ قَوْمٍ عَسَىٰ أَن يَكُونُوا خَيْرًا مِّنْهُمْ. That, O you who believe, let none of you put down any other person or any other group. Why? Because perhaps the group that is being made fun of may be better than you. You and I do not know who is better and who is worse in the eyes of Allah. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. No doubt the most noble amongst you, the one who is more noble in the eyes of Allah, is the one who has more taqwa. Where is taqwa? Hahuna, the Prophet ﷺ says, that it's in the heart. You and I cannot see the heart, in what's inside the heart, and the taqwa that's in the heart. So regardless of the actions that you see, regardless of what you see on the outside, it doesn't mean that that person is somehow further away or closer to Allah. You cannot make that judgment. Only Allah knows that. And that's why none of us can judge the other person, because they may be better than us. Mufti Menki comments on this and he says that perhaps the person who you see, that the 20 good deeds that you do, that person doesn't do. You don't see them. But perhaps that person goes home and he does 20 deeds that you don't do. Maybe that person goes home and helps his mom out every single day. Maybe that person goes home and makes tahajjud every single night and prays as a lot of qiyam every single night and asks for forgiveness every single night. And you don't do those things. But you don't see that in public. You don't see that in front of you. But don't judge, because you don't know what that person does behind the scenes, not in front of you. That person may be closer to Allah than you can even imagine. So don't judge other people because of the simple fact that they may be better than you. The fourth point is short, but again very important, and that is look in the mirror. And that is that what you think about others, the way you think about others, and the way you judge other people shows a lot about yourself. If you see a guy and a girl walking in the mall or somewhere, and the first thing you think, yeah, look at these, kids, look at what they're doing, this is haram, why don't they just get married, and this and that, they're dating, etc., etc. You start having these thoughts in your mind. That probably means that either you're doing the exact same thing yourself, or that means that you did something like that before. It shows a lot about the type of person you are, the way you think about other people. So look in the mirror and don't judge other people. Point number 5 is look at where you used to be, and this is such an important point. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءً فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. That He, by His special favor, made you brothers and sisters and caused unity in between your hearts. وَكُنْتُمْ عَلَى شَفَا حُفْرَةٍ مِّنَ النَّارِ. And you yourself used to be at the very edge of the hellfire. فَأَنْقَذَكُمْ مِنْهَا. And He pulled you out. You yourself weren't religious just a few years ago when you were younger. But now you're religious and you think you can judge people who aren't religious. You can judge the youth. You yourself didn't wear hijab just a year ago. And now you see a sister who's not wearing hijab and you judge her. You used to own your own haram business and now you see the guy with the haram business. You're like, what's this guy doing? Why is he doing this? And you judge that person. You were at a certain place not so long ago. So the people that you see who are at that place that you used to be, help them out. You used to be addicted to pornography and alcohol and smoking and this and that. And you see people doing it and you judge them. Instead of judging, instead of putting people down, what you and I should do is help them. There's a reason this is mentioned in the ayah about community. Because in a community, we help each other out. Versus a cult. In a cult, if a person is not living up to the standard of the community, of the status quo, then what does the cult do? Get out of here. You're out. You're kicked out of the cult. But in a community, if someone is struggling, if someone is facing challenges, if someone's facing addictions, someone's not doing so well, you extend your hand in a community. You say, hey, let me help you. I was facing this same problem not so long ago. Let me tell you how I got past this. Let me help you out. Let me show you the way. I'm here for you. Be there for other people. There's a story about Imam Abu Hanifa and how his neighbor used to be a drunkard. He used to drink frequently, almost on a daily basis. And he was the type of person, his neighbor was, that he would sit and drink in front of his house And he would talk about the world in such a way where he just hated what was going on in the world. He was like, oh yeah, the way, the world's going on and what people are doing, I don't want to be any part of it. And he even says in the poetry that he would recite and the singing that he would do, that the world, how could they have wasted someone like me? Those are the kind of words he used in the Arabic poetry that he sang. He said, how could the world have wasted me like this? Right? He was a very talented young man, but he would just assort to drinking every time he had these, emotions. And so Imam Abu Hanifa, he would walk past him pretty much on a daily basis, just kind of saying, hey, how's it going? Just small talk here and there, but they would never interact on a very close level. And the neighbor himself didn't necessarily like Imam Abu Hanifa because, not on a personal level, but because he was a person of religion. Right? Imam Abu Hanifa was a person of religion and he didn't like people who were into religion and these things. And so he didn't particularly like him. So one day Imam Abu Hanifa walks by the house and after 2 or 3 days, he doesn't see him. He doesn't see the person drinking and singing like he normally does outside of his home. So he goes to someone in the community and he says, hey, where'd this guy go? What happened to him? And so the person tells him that, oh, he's in jail. He got arrested. He's sitting in a cell. And so Imam Abu Hanifa hears this and he shows up to bail that person out. He shows up to the county jail. And back in the day, the judges, the qadis were they were in charge of the jails and whatnot. They were the judges. And so Imam Abu Hanifa was asked at one point to be the judge of the entire Muslim world. So he's like a heavyweight. He's like a big shot, right, in that context. So now he's going to this measly county judge compared to him. And the county judge is like, whoa, Imam Abu Hanifa is here. Why is he here? Yes, how may I help you? What do you need? And he said, I need your help. I need you to release that person. He's like, wait, that guy? That drunk? What do you have to do with him? Sure, yeah, that's not a problem. So he lets him go. And so the person, this drunkard, he sees that Imam Abu Hanifa bails him out. And Imam Abu Hanifa looks at him, and the man is confused, and Imam Abu Hanifa looks at him and he says, did we let you go to waste? Right? Did we let you go to waste? And so history tells us that this man completely changed his life around. That's what a community does. When you show mercy to people, when you show kindness to people, when you show support to people, sincerely and genuinely, then you can uplift them. You can uplift them and you can better their situation instead of hating them and disliking them and judging them. That's what a community does. That's what community members should do for each other. The final point, inshallah, and that is related to the previous point, and that is show mercy to others so that Allah may show mercy to you. Irhamu man fil ard, yarhamkum man fis sama. Show mercy to those who are on the earth, and Allah, the one in the heavens, will show mercy to you. Right? So we should show mercy to others so that Allah shows mercy to us. And there's an amazing Christian a quote from the Christian tradition that says, judge not lest ye be judged, for by the standard with which ye judge, you too shall also be judged. If you judge other people so harshly, expect Allah to judge you in the same way, right? Expect Allah to judge you in the same way. When you and I judge ourselves, what do? Oh, I committed this sin, but this excuse and that excuse, and but this reason and that reason. But when it comes to other people, no excuses. Just judging straight up, no excuses whatsoever, not even one that we can think of. We're so easy on ourselves, but we're so harsh on other people. And if you want Allah to show you mercy, then show other people mercy. If you want justice from Allah, then good luck with that. Don't look for justice with other people, look for mercy. Because none of us wants justice from Allah. We want mercy from Allah. If you and I wanted justice from Allah, we'd be in a pretty bad situation. We want mercy from Allah, so we should show mercy to other people. And there's a final point, there's a seventh and final point that I'll make inshallah in the second khutbah. But quickly I just wanted to review the 6 points that we've made today so that we can remember them. Number 1 was we should not judge by the outwardly, neither the appearance nor the actions. Point number 2 is that you don't see the progress, so don't judge other people. Point number 3 is that don't judge other people because they may simply be better than you. Point number 4 is that look in the mirror. The way you think about other people shows a lot about who you are. Point number 5 is look at where you used to be. And instead of putting down other people, instead of judging them, help them through your experiences and through your knowledge. And point number 6 is show mercy to others so that you may be shown mercy, primarily, inshallah, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables every single one of us to act upon what has been said and heard. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable every single one of us to not be judgmental and to not judge others. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to be a means of hope and support to other people instead of a means of hate and putting other people's down. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wa ba'd. The seventh and final point that I'd like to make is related to the other six, but it's something that we should do instead. So the first 6 points that I've made have been about things that we should not do with relation to judging other people. But now, instead of judging other people, what should you and I do instead? And that is to judge ourselves. And you and I need to learn to do this on a consistent basis, because you and I, we're living in such a world, in the hustle and bustle, that we rarely ever stop to think about where we are in life with relation to Allah. Where are we headed? What direction are we going? How many of us actually sit down and reflect, what did I do today? What did I do last week? What did I do in the past few years of my life? Am I getting closer to Allah? Am I becoming a better person or not? So this khutbah, just as much as it is about not judging others, it is just as much, and the point I want you and I to take home today is what we should do instead, and that is judge ourselves. Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh, he used to say something quite often. He used to say, "Hasibu anfusakum qabla an tuhasabu." That take yourselves to account. Hold yourselves accountable before you are taken into account. Before Allah holds you accountable on the Day of Judgment. You and I don't know when that time will come for us, when we will be held accountable. The Day of Judgment, the hereafter for every single one of us starts at a different point. It starts at the time of death. And you and I don't know that time. So you and I need to constantly make sure we're in a good place, because we don't know when death will come. So hasibu anfusakum qabla an tuhasabu. Hold yourself accountable before you are held accountable. And so on that note, just a practical tip for myself and for all of you, and that is that on a weekly basis, ideally on Friday, if you don't have time on Friday, then try to do this on Saturday or Sunday, but sit down for 15, 20, 30 minutes, as much time as you can, and look at the week before. And look at what you did the previous week. What sins did I commit? Who did I hurt? What did I do that I shouldn't have? And what good things did I do that I can build upon? Do that every single week. Make a list of things and hold yourself accountable. And then do it the next week, and the following week, and the following week, again and again. If you and I can do this on a weekly basis, imagine the transformation that we can make in our lives. Right? Imagine the transformation. And the final point I'd like to make is that when you and I look at ourselves and we judge only ourselves, then guess what? We realize that we're pretty bad people. We have struggles, we have challenges, we have things that we're going through. And when you are so focused on yourself, in improving yourself, and reflecting upon yourself, then you have no time to look at other people. You have no time to judge other people. Because you're like, I'm such a terrible person. Why would I even look at other people? I have no time. I have to worry about myself. I have to hold myself accountable. So let's, inshallah, hold ourselves accountable to the highest standard before we are held accountable in the eyes in front of Allah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable every single one of us again to apply by everything that we've said. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us people who do not judge other people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us a means of supporting each other and encouraging each other when the others are struggling. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our community blessed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable every single one of us on a weekly basis at the very least, hold ourselves accountable before we are held accountable in front of Allah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid. Wa barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. عباد الله رحمكم الله اتقوا الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقم الصلاة.